What's up, Fitness Factory, and anyone else who's watching this? My name is Alan Antonelli. I own the Fitness Factory and Outlaw Barbell. And behind the camera, who wishes to remain somewhat anonymous, is Jenna Hendershot, who owns Get Fat Fitness.
Hello.
My goal today is to demonstrate a piece of equipment, and I plan on doing this 2 times a week until we get through everything, and then we can review or have questions or however it may work. So we're going to start with our squat racks. We have 2 of them, the collegiate squat rack, which is I believe it's 8 foot tall, and then the red one, which is just a standard squat rack, is 7 foot. So obviously if you're shorter, use the red one. If you're taller, use this one. So I want to go over some quick do's and don'ts with the squat racks, and we're going to start off because this is how I found it this morning. Is if you want, Jenna, zoom in on our safety pins. So we have safety pins on the floor. It's not very safe if it's on the floor. For one, it's a tripping hazard. We're not doing agility training. Hopefully we're doing strength training. And then there's also a pin in the back extension, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we have 4 pins in there already. So that's just redundant, so we'll take that pin out. And then if you notice over here, again, there's a bunch of pins on the floor, which are doing you no good if they're not in the squat rack. Please be safe. You don't get points on crushing your head or breaking a knee or whatever it is. Be safe, put your stuff in there. All right? So with that said, if the larger safety pin's on the floor and you're squatting and you already have the bottom one set up, just put it up higher. Get out of the way. That way you can focus on squatting and not maneuvering yourself around everything. All right? So Jenna, if you can, come over here. I want to do a box squat real quick. And I've actually seen this set up around this height in a similar height box. And I'm going to show you why this is wrong real quick. So I squat to the box, but let's say I can't get up and I fail. What's going to happen? I got to dump it. I can't even reach the pin. It's way too far. So what's happens? I got to go like and basically do that. So you got to tell yourself, is this right or is it wrong? It's wrong. So let's show you what right looks like. All right, if you notice there's a number here, it says 25. I'm one above here. There it is. 25. All right, let's try it again. Now I'm right in position. So if I fail, no big deal. I'm right out from under it. Now I can argue that you can actually raise this up 1 more notch. So pin height can also detect core weaknesses. When you squat to the box, and you end up hitting the pin, it can tell you you have core weaknesses. You should be able to stay above it and tight enough to come right up from it. So I'd actually raise this up, right, 1 more. bunch of steps. You actually want to use the J-hooks as a guide for your body. So you sit back, plenty of room, stand right up. And it forces you to stay tight in your position. So you'll see this a lot. And people will touch, or they do this with squat, your hips never drop and they're in this position. It'll be wrong, so it forces you to stay high. All right. Next up, show you how to put the bands up. These are black Monster Minis. There's two ways to do it. You can choke, like so. But I found on all the Elite Fitness equipment, it's actually better to do it a different way. Put your pins in with two spots in between the pin, one back. And the reason being is because your heels are going to be right here and it's going to create a center line. And you look up.
Is that the same amount of resistance?
Yeah, and then it's always even.
Always, okay.
So you don't have to fight with the bands. When you choke a band off, it's pretty common to have a little bit of uneven tension.
I see.
So this way, it's always correct, and it is pretty much the same as what a choke band would be.
Okay.
Which would be, with this band, you're looking at somewhere between 40, 50 pounds. Purple band, 60, 80, 100 pounds. And depending on your brand, the blues and jump strips, these are kind of like a knockoff, that's 200 pounds. Hooked exactly like this is, step out. You don't need to walk it out to the middle of the rack. Remember in your squat, you don't get points for how far you can walk it. It's how well you can squat. All right. The next is, so the bands on the bar is for over speedy cinchers. So it's going to teach you how to get faster and jump through it. And there's much more kinetic potential with bands. Another way to do it is called the future method. You simply take the bands to the top and then you wrap them around. Something like that. What you can do is if you need more, you gotta do the same thing. Just start over here and then drop it down. There's a number of ways you can do it depending on how much tension you want. So when you're at the bottom, the bar is pretty much weightless. At the top, it's going to be whatever this bar weighs, which is a squat bar, so it's 60 pounds. That makes sense?
Yes.
All right. Next thing is overhead presses in the squat rack. Let's take this one back out. All right. You can do your strict presses in the squat rack. Don't do them out here. For one, you got rubber to floor, and you just don't need to be tripping over that. Plus, if you drop the weights out here in my floor, I'm just going to be mad. So don't do that.
Don't make Alan mad, please.
So where do you want the pins on a strict press? It's just the same thing. Just bring it up to about right here. So if you need to dump it, you only got to dump it a few inches. You don't want to dump it anything big time. You just don't want to ruin the bars, bend them, or anything like that. What you got to be aware of when you do strict presses overhead in the rack is how tall you are. If you're real tall, you see if I have a plane in it will hit here. So just make sure that's in. And the hooks should always be coming in this way. Never the other way. Always come in that way. That way you can get them out of the way. So if I press up, the plate's not going to be in the way. And again, you can do the light method with the bands on top, coming underneath the bar, coming up over top the bar. You can set pins up here and do pin presses overhead, working on transitional weaknesses. You can't do the dreaded curl out of the rack, although we don't recommend that. But the biggest things I want to see is all the pins always interact. If you're doing pin pulls, take one pin, put it up top, put the other pin down here. Like technically this would be wrong, just put it somewhere where it fits correctly and nice and even. And I think that's about it. So you deadlift, almost all kind of pressing, floor presses, strict presses, pin presses, whether you're standing or on your back, squatting, and just make sure it's safe. So if you fall, you don't have far ways to fall. You just go right into the pins. Do not want to go to the ground. You have any questions, Jen?
I don't have any questions, but if anybody else has questions while they're here, they can definitely feel free to ask. That way they're doing it correctly, not getting hurt.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm also going to do a second video for Outlaw Barbell Strength workout today, which is dynamic effort leg, which is basically speed leg and a lot of volume training. So we'll go over that, although we're going to use a monolith for that. So you get to see how that works, and then hopefully I've calmed down and not quite as nervous when I go over there. All right, that's it.